Number 13. Six Flags Haunted Castle. On May the 11th of 1984, one of the worst theme park disasters in history occurred as a fire broke out at Six Flags Great Adventures Haunted Castle. Built out of semi-trailers, the attraction had a maze-like structure. The flammable materials used in construction like foam padding and plywood frames, as well as its air conditioning, which fanned the flames, contributed to the fire spreading rapidly. In spite of repeated recommendations from the park's own safety consultants, the structure lacked building permits, sprinklers, or smoke detectors. 29 guests were inside the haunted castle at the time, and some thought the flames to be part of the horror-themed experience. It wasn't long before the visitors realized they found themselves in a death trap. The blaze broke out of the top of the castle, and a dark cloud of smoke rose through the air. The majority of guests made it out, but it wasn't clear how many lives had been lost until later that evening. The bodies of 8 teenagers were recovered in one of the trailers. They were so badly burnt that firemen believed them to be mannequins at first. In the tragedy's aftermath, new legislation was passed requiring amusement buildings to be fitted with fire safety, detection, and suppression systems. Number 12. Treetop Twister. Improper wiring, worn-out wheels, and operator error are all elements that contributed to the 2001 Treetop Twister ride accident at the Lightwater Valley theme park in the UK. The various safety violations had led to the collision of 2 cars. 20-year-old university student Gemma Savage and her boyfriend were in one of them. The ride stopped automatically after the car in front of them had failed to reach the top of a U-bend slope. The ride's electrician used the manual controls without pressing the emergency stop button, thus releasing the car Savage was in. It accelerated down the bend and up the other side, before crashing into the car in front of them at maximum impact speed. Savage suffered severe neck and head injuries, to which she succumbed the following day. Number 11. Thunder River Rapids. The Thunder River Rapid Ride was located in a section of the Dreamworld theme park in Australia's Gold Coast. It was meant to imitate the effects of whitewater rafting. A water pump, essential for the ride's operation, malfunctioned on October the 25th of 2016. This caused a difference in water levels, which stranded one of the rafts occupied by 6 guests. Another ride, also carrying 6 passengers, was carried forward by the conveyor belt and crashed into it. Both rafts pivoted upwards, and some of the passengers became trapped close to the conveyor mechanism. 4 sustained fatal injuries. In the incident's aftermath, the park was temporarily closed down, and Thunder River Rapids, which had been one of its most popular attractions, was permanently removed. Number 10. Carnival accident at Texas Church. In April of 2016, one teenager was killed and another was injured after they were ejected from a ride in Texas. The attraction, called the Sizzler, was found at the St. Thomas Aquinas Church Carnival in El Paso. It consisted of seats spinning around a pole as well as on their own axis. 16-year-old Samantha Aguilar was flung from the ride and struck a metal barrier. One of her friends, aged 15, was also thrown from the Sizzler, but only suffered minor injuries and was expected to recover. Aguilar's condition was critical, and she later succumbed to her injuries at El Paso's Del Sol Medical Center. It's still unclear as to what had caused the carnival ride's malfunction. Number 9. White Roller Coaster Accident. The White Roller Coaster at the Lagoon Amusement Park in Utah has been operating since 1921 and is among the oldest roller coasters in the world. There have been several incidents in the ride's past, but most have been attributed to passenger misconduct. One of the worst accidents occurred in 1989. A teenage girl stood up as her car was cresting a hill. She fell forward on the tracks and was struck by 2 more cars before plummeting 35 feet to her death. Another accident, which occurred decades prior to the teen's death, involved 20-year-old Henry Howe. In 1934, he got up as the roller coaster was cresting the highest hill on the ride. Howe fell out of the car and struck a number of support trestles on the way down. He died at the scene. Number 8. Ohio State Fair Fireball. Only days after he'd enlisted in the US Marine Corps, 18-year-old Tyler Jarrell suffered a devastating accident at the Ohio State Fair. The teenager was on a pendulum ride called Fireball. The pod that he and others were sat in broke off in mid-air, sending them hurtling towards the ground. It landed about 50 feet away from the ride. Jarrell had suffered critical injuries in the impact and was pronounced dead. 6 other people were injured in the crash. A subsequent report would find corrosion as the main cause of the accident. Number 7. Action Park. In the theme park world, few names have a closer association with disaster as that of New Jersey's Action Park. Its generational cultural impact was undisputed, as it had almost become a rite of passage for people in New Jersey, New York, or Connecticut to be injured at the park. Lawsuits were so ubiquitous that it was often nicknamed Class Action Park. It was known for poorly maintained rides, underaged and undertrained staff who, much like the guests, were intoxicated on occasion. At least 6 people have died due to mishaps on Action Park rides before it was ultimately closed down. 3 separate deaths resulted from drowning at the tidal wave pool. In another incident, a car of the Alpine slide jumped the track, sending a teenager into a rock and killing him. Another visitor died after he'd suffered massive electrocution on the kayak experience. Number 6. Alton Towers roller coaster crash. The Smiler, found at England's Alton Towers, reportedly owns the world record for most inversions on a roller coaster. The ride's past, however, has been marked by several incidents. The most serious of them occurred in June of 2015, when a loaded train collided with an empty one. The test train had been stalled when the engineers released the blocking mechanism, not knowing another train was on the tracks. They collided at approximately 20 miles per hour. Of the 16 passengers on the ride at the time, 5 were severely injured. 20-year-old Vicky Bulch and Leah Washington, aged 17, were in the front row when the crash occurred. They survived, but each of them required partial leg amputations in the incident's aftermath. Number 5. Booster Ride in France. The Booster is a ride manufactured by Italian company Fabri, which uses the motion of a fixed pendulum to swing, invert, and spin its riders. In August of 2007, a gondola broke loose from the ride at a theme park in France. 2 people in the gondola, a father and son, were killed, and 2 others were severely injured. As emergency services were called to the scene and engineers tried to fix the failure, a few riders were stranded about 130 feet in the air for over 2 hours. Number 4. Discovery Pendulum Disaster. In 2019, 2 visitors were killed and dozens were injured at a theme park in Gujarat, India, when a pendulum ride broke in half. The attraction, named Discovery, had 31 people aboard and had started to swing them upwards when its main shaft snapped. The ring of seats at the bottom was sent crashing to the ground. Clips on social media showed other park guests trying to free the riders that were still trapped in their seats. An investigation was launched and 6 people were charged with culpable homicide. They included the managing director of the company that ran the park, a manager, and 2 ride operators. Number 3. Wildcat Ride in Tulsa. In April of 1997, Bell's Amusement Park in Tulsa, Oklahoma, had a 25-cent ride promotion to celebrate its season opening. The Wildcat was one of the theme park's star attractions. A fatal accident, however, would lead to the ride being disassembled and relocated. As one of the cars was being pulled up to the highest points on the track, a mechanical failure caused it to slide backwards. It collided with another car, killing a 14-year-old boy and injuring 6 other people. Today's topic was requested by Instagram follower Who Ate My Steakums. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below, or follow us on Instagram and reach out to us there. Number 2. Superman, Tower of Power. While on a ride at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom called Superman, Tower of Power, a girl in her early teens suffered a horrific accident. The ride pulled passengers to a height of about 177 feet, or about as high as the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and then dropped them at nearly 55 miles per hour. During the climbing part of the ride, a cable on the ride became disconnected. As the ride came down, the cable became wrapped around the teenager's legs. Operators heard the screams, but the ride had passed the point where the emergency stop would have worked. One of the 13-year-old's femurs was shattered, and both her feet were severed from the ankle down. Doctors subsequently managed to reattach her right foot. Superman Tower of Power was removed from the park soon after. Before we move on, official They Will Kill You merchandise is now available at theywillkillyou.com. It's out of this world. Number 1. Luna Park Fire. On the night of June the 9th of 1979, a fire ravaged the ghost train at Sydney's Luna Park. It broke out inside the ride at about 10:30 p.m. A combination of understaffing, low water pressure, and inadequate coverage of the hose systems enabled the fire to completely consume the ghost train. It took roughly an hour to bring the blaze under control. About 35 people were on the train as dark smoke started to come out of the tunnel's entrance. They were pulled from the cars as they were coming out of the tunnel. 7 people lost their lives, and their bodies were later found inside the ride. It's believed that they'd gotten out of the cars and succumbed to smoke inhalation while trying to find their way out of the tunnel. It's possible they would have survived had they remained on the train. While electrical failure is often cited as the cause of the fire, subsequent reports claimed that it was arson by elements of the criminal underworld who were trying to get control of the park's lease. Thanks for watching. Would you rather go on a high-speed roller coaster knowing it's been improperly maintained, or get slammed by a professional wrestler? Let us know in the comments section below.